You are listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Hey, welcome to I Am Refocused Radio. We are here once again, and today we have another amazing show lined up for y'all. We're going to be talking to a special guest, Coach Lee Hopkins, and we're going to really have some fun today and just learn not just about finding your tribe, but remaining positive and self-love and all that good stuff. But Coach Lee Hopkins, he is a transgender man who helps people create lasting friendships after struggling with loneliness most of his life. He tried various ways to resolve it, including moving across the United States to find his tribe to fit in. And without further ado, Coach Lee, I want to welcome you to the show and say, how are you doing?
Hey, Shamaya, thank you so much for having me. Everybody out there, thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here. I'm doing pretty great.
So, man, today's topic, man, let's talk about defeat shame, build self-esteem, and set up boundaries. So I'm going to let you have the floor, but tell us a little bit about yourself, though, before we dive into the topic.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So, yeah, I came into this because of my own experiences. So I help people overcome it because I had to deal with it myself. And a little bit about me, I grew up in a small town in Ohio. And this was back when, I was presenting as female. So I'm going to use those just for awareness, presenting as female and male after my transition. And I'll tell you about the transition, but just for your own clarity, I grew up and I was feeling like an outcast, essentially. And I thought that, it was my hometown. I thought it was my hometown that was the problem and the people there. And so when I went to college, I thought that I'd have a different experience and meet new people. And boom, I'd find people who could get me, understand me, and I'd make friends with them. And that didn't really happen. It didn't happen the way I thought it was going to. I blame TV for that, showing that all these families and college dramas, like just go somewhere else and you meet new people and everything will be great. Well, I had that idea in my head and I thought, well, okay, the entire state of Ohio, after I graduate, it's messed up. So I graduated and I left. I had an opportunity to move to California. And there I had an opportunity to reinvent myself. Like nobody knew me. I feel it was a bigger place. It was like a blue state. I just thought, well, there is where I will find my tribe. And I did actually find some great people, made some nice connections. I actually started a karaoke group. I was so into that. I was kind of like a mini celebrity too. I was out in the scene just about every night and I knew a lot of people. A lot of people knew me, but Shamaya was still lonely, so lonely, still so lonely because I couldn't really share something. I didn't know what it was, but there was something inside of me that I didn't share and I wasn't able to connect. I thought really deep down inside that these people hated me. I mean, if they really would know me, they would hate me, even though they high-fived me or they knew what I was drinking or they would talk to me, So I thought, well, I had another opportunity to leave the state and I did. I moved to Chicago. And in Chicago, I had an opportunity to reinvent myself again. And this is the point where I made this transition from male to female or female to male. I made this transition because I thought maybe that was the thing that I was hiding, that if I would just come out, that people would like me and I would be able to connect with people. So I met the right people who helped me make this transition, who helped give me the language, who were a community of support. And after I made a transition, I found myself even lonelier. It was so much worse because now I had this new burden of hiding in plain sight. So I'm a trans man and you wouldn't be able to tell, quote, air quotes, you wouldn't be able to tell. You would have to talk to me and have a conversation with me. And there's so many people who, although they knew of trans, they're still uncomfortable with it. So now I really do have people running away from me. A quick story. I was trying to find some connections with people. This is after I transitioned in Chicago. And I was trying to figure out, like, how do I talk to people? Or what do I share with people? Or how do I open up? I mean, I know this is, being trans is now a big part of my identity, I've got to share it with some people. So I went to this comedy club, and I went in there with this mindset that, I'm going to just talk to somebody. That's my goal. I'm going to share something with somebody, make a connection. And I do. I chop it up with this guy, and we're having a beer, and we're just nice conversation. And he mentions that he's never seen a trans person before. And I thought, this is a great opportunity for both of us. I'm going to help him by revealing myself, and I'm going to reveal myself so that we could be better connected. And this guy, he was so stunned that he had this cartoon bugger eyes just kind of pop out of his head, jaw dropped. He just stopped what he was doing, left his beer, and left. Just gone. And I was just like, man, ouch. Ouch. So I felt more rejection. Yeah.
Wow.
So after some time in Chicago, I discovered, all right, there's something that I need to do with myself to make genuine connections with other people. There's something going on, because if I wasn't able to do it in Ohio, I wasn't able to do it in California, I wasn't able to do it when I thought I was standing in my truth in Chicago, then what the heck is it? And so that's what I want to share with everybody today.
And I want to apologize. I wasn't laughing at the situation. I just had a picture in my mind, like a random situation where someone just abruptly leaves. I'm trying to picture that in my head. Like, wait, what?
It was meant to be funny. I think I did a good job.
Well, I just want to make sure for the audience, I wasn't laughing, for the reason of him leaving, but more so the awkwardness of the abrupt getting up. And I have to ask, how did you take those situations when that happened? Was it something that you used? Because I was thinking about when you mentioned the comedy thing or whatever, I was thinking, well, did you try to use it for humor, or how did you get through all that?
Yeah, well, that's a great question, because only now I can use it for humor. Because back at that time, I mean, you can imagine that I felt so low. So I'm running away from everything. I grew from Ohio, and I moved to California, and I run away, and I moved to Chicago, and I'm thinking, nobody likes me at all. Even though I'm having this group of karaoke people saying, hey, what's going on? High five, and trying to talk to me. And when I came to Chicago, I was also in the bar scene, and I met people who did, quote, like me. They thought it was fun and interesting and to talk to, but I felt like that on the inside. And then here it comes manifested in my face, like an outward example of someone just not knowing what to do with me so much that they can't say anything else. They have to leave. It was the ultimate rejection. At that point, I felt just like, I never want to tell anybody anything about myself ever again.
And that comes to the question. By the way, you listen to Army Focus Radio, talking to Coach Lee. When people are trying to build self-esteem, this is probably, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but this is an interesting topic, to say the least. I'm trying to be careful with my words because I don't want to come across wrong. But when it comes to the stages of you building self-esteem, walk the audience through that, and how were you able to accomplish that over the years?
Well, yeah, that's a great one, because that is a pivotal moment, the one that I just described about the person walking away, because I'm realizing how much of it is in my head and how much of it, if it's actually physically manifested, that it won't kill me. So what I'm saying is that I'm running from place to place, from Ohio to California, and I'm thinking, nobody likes me. And I can't really see the things that people are doing that really help me and really make me feel like they want me as a part of the group, that should make me feel like they want me a part of the group. They invite me to things. They ask me how I'm doing, stuff like that. And I couldn't really notice it. I didn't notice that as anything that was inviting. I didn't notice it as something that should have said something to me that they wanted me around. It didn't even seem like that, because I was in my own head. And when I run into this guy who basically gets up and walks away, he clearly is showing that he's not interested. And in that moment, I felt it, but I didn't fall apart. It wasn't the end of the world. I didn't decide. I was upset in that moment, of course, but I worked through it. And this is what I want to help people do, is have this experience where they realize that a lot of the stuff is in our heads. And so what I do as a coach is I help people, I point that out to them. Most of the time I'll ask them if they died. So something like that. But I really want to point out the fact that it's hard. Yes, it is. It doesn't feel good. It's not pleasant, but it is in these experiences where we grow. And I ask my clients to sit with these experiences and to see what they have learned, see what really comes out of it. So what I learned from this experience is that I just don't go and share the deepest, most intimate parts of my soul or my person to people, just random people. I just don't do that. It's not appropriate. And that was one of those things that is deep to a person, especially when I'm talking to a person who's never seen a trans person before in his life, doesn't understand anything about the transition or why anybody would do that. And here I go and I shock the crap out of him. I just shock him. And so I also learned that, well, I'm part of this experience for him too. He had a completely different experience with me. He may have been traumatized in some way. Who knows? But I need to be aware of that and pay attention. And so in order to keep myself and my clients from feeling like they're extra exposed, we learn some things about ourselves, and we slowly share those things to see how people react. We don't just want to throw cold water at people. We want to slowly see how things go. And he was saying to me, I wasn't paying attention. He was saying to me he wasn't comfortable with it because he talked about how he didn't know about these experiences. He didn't know what they were. He was confused by the whole thing. If I had been tracking that, we would have started talking a little bit about maybe some history of it and see how he felt. It didn't have to be about me. I didn't have to blow him away like that. So I help people when it comes to this rejection, when it comes to building resilience. We start by looking at ourselves. We start by looking at the little things about us that we want to share, and then decide to share those and see how people react to them so that we can be prepared when we share bigger things with them, or we can have a better connection with them when we share bigger things with them. And I help them deal with it when big things don't go over the way we hope they would. We share something that's really intimate and a part of us and we get rejected. I just help them see that it's just a redirection. It's a redirection. Yes, it hurts, but definitely we'll learn from it.
Once again, talking to Coach Lee, I Am Refocused Radio. Go to his website, patternsofpossibility.com. Now, getting to the coaching part, because we know that's what you do. When you made the decision that this is something that you wanted to do, what was your mission statement, if you will, the core of what you wanted to do for people?
The core of what I want to do for people, I really want to help people make genuine connections. Now, what I mean by genuine connections is one where you feel that you can hear and say and do and be yourself. Be authentic. That's still pretty vague. These are words, these are buzzwords I'm trying to grab because you may have heard these somewhere before, like authenticity and so forth. What does it really mean to be authentic? Well, you're going to do the thing, and you're going to say the thing, whatever it is, without anybody looking. You'll say it to people, in front of people. You'll be comfortable. Whatever you're comfortable doing when nobody's watching, I want you to be just as comfortable doing with another person, and have this person accept and understand you. That's part of it. So I want to help people find those people.
And when people are basically being true to who they are and kind of going with the topic that we're talking about with self-esteem, what's the next step once they find their tribe and they find the people that will basically be their support system?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I think that a lot of people don't understand. A lot of people, I didn't really understand what friendships were and what finding your tribe really means and so forth. And people change. And I threw that out there because after a while, if you've been friends with someone or connected with people for 2, 3, 5 years, someone might move away, might have kids, might have a new relationship. But when you're finding your tribe, you have people who share your values. So no matter what happens, no matter what things physically happen outside, you usually are able to stay connected through your values. If your values change, then they may change, and that might separate you. But when you're finding your tribe, you're looking for people who share the values that you do. If you're a super saver with money, if you're a person who wants to do that, you're not really going to be connected with people who spend willy-nilly, because you will have a hard time hanging around them, because if that was a really strong value of yours, you'd be like, you might not even be able to help how frivolous or how you might judge them unconsciously because they're spending money on fast food, and that's just not something you do. Or you're saving and they're always trying to get you to go out. So I'm talking about people who really share your values. So no matter what, most of the time, your core values, they really don't change for the most part, unless you have some kind of huge life-changing experience. Your values stay the same and they grow together and they grow. And I think another important thing about, having your tribe and building self-esteem, it comes from knowing your values and being able to stand in those. That is your truth, essentially. You know what you want. Nobody can shame you into doing something that you don't want to do. Nobody in your tribe will want to shame you into something that you don't want to do because they respect your values. If you're a super saver, you're trying to save this money because that's what you do, nobody's going to make fun of you for that. Nobody's going to try to get you to go to a concert. Nobody's going to try to get you to go against your values. So I find that a lot of my clients, and even me, let's talk about me. I didn't know what my values were. I didn't know what was important to me. I was always trying to be whatever someone else around me wanted me to be, or I thought they wanted me to be. And so when I found my values, I'm like, well, if you don't align with what I want, then I know that I don't have time for you. I know that it's not possible for us to grow together. And I don't have the energy to try and change your values. I don't have a need to. I don't have a desire to. I just want to be with people who want to be with me, who share my values.
And when you have those people around you, you obviously become part of their value system as well, as far as they respect your value system, but you also, iron sharpens iron, so if you're going to be around them, they're going to have some ways of showing you their personal life experiences, and that will always rub off on people. But when it comes to the way you can make those relationships last for a lifetime, what are some of the attributes of allowing those friendships be something that actually is not seasonal, but can be for a while?
Yeah, that's great. That's a great question, because I think it ties right into the values right there. And iron sharpens iron, and all that you just said. It's not about having somebody go against your values. It's about somebody having you strengthen your values in yourselves, even if they don't hold those same values. And that's what makes it much stronger. So all of us, we want some understanding. And what I mean we want understanding is we want somebody to not just tell us they love us. They don't want us to just do that. They want to see it. So I think understanding or demonstrating that you understand how people feel is what really makes the connection. So you could say, just for an example, I love you. I love you. I love you. And if the other person doesn't feel that, or they don't really understand what you're doing, how you're showing love, they're not going to feel it. Everybody needs to understand, or to demonstrate rather the understanding. So I'm saying, I love you. I love you. I love you. And the other person is just not convinced. But if I gave them, this is sad, but this example, if I gave them something like a diamond ring and they felt like that was love, then they'd be all over it and they would understand how I felt. It may not be how I feel. It's not how I want to display it to them. It's about reflecting their own understanding back to them. And that's what makes us more connected. That's what makes us more like a tribe who can be with each other. Because even though, let's say, we'll use the super saver and the person who's spending money, we'll use that. It's like, well, if the super saver is just always doing this thing, saving all their money, and the person who's spending says, hey, well, I know why you want to save money. It just makes sense. This is part of your identity. This is what you've always been doing. You really want to buy a new car. You don't want any debt. But I'm going to go get this junior bacon cheeseburger and I'm going to go get a couple Happy Meals because that's how I want to spend my money. If at the end of the day, they can just look at each other and be like, okay, that's cool, then that is going to help your friendship grow, because you get an opportunity here to look at each other's lifestyles and say, maybe I want this. Maybe I'll see the super saver do this and like, yeah, I want this. Maybe the super saver will be like, well, maybe every once in a while I could let loose. And you could just have and share through each other and sharpen each other and have different experiences with each other without trying to hurt each other with judgment and shame.
Yeah, I mean, like they would say, agree to disagree. Just because you like baseball doesn't mean that I like baseball. You know, I might like basketball or football, but that makes total sense because, you know, in today's world, we have
If I could, though, it's a little more than agree to disagree. I see why you do what you do, but it's not for me. I like it for you, but it's not for me. Essentially, it's like there's no judgment. And I agree to disagree. I don't like I'm sorry, but when I hear I agree to disagree, I hear I don't like what you do, but I'll tolerate it. It's more like that feels a bit disconnecting. What I mean to say is it's more like I don't like what you do, but I like it for you. It's not for me, but I celebrate the fact that you want to do this with your life, what you want to do. And I'm not going to judge you for it. I'm not going to shame you for it. I'm not going to try and change anything about it. I can see why you love it. And I want to celebrate that with you, even though it's not for me.
I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
You're saying go to the baseball game, even though you don't like baseball.
Yes, exactly. Go to the baseball game, buy the popcorn, drink the beer, whatever you do. It's boring as heck to me, but hey. That's nice.
No, I get that. Once again, talking to Coach Lee here on Army Focus Radio website, patternsofpossibility.com. You got courses too. Before we end the show, you have paid courses, you have free courses. Your free course is Understanding Connections that we're kind of talking about right now. What are some of the things that people that you helped so far? What's some of the biggest feedback that you consistently have been getting from people?
Well, a lot of people discover that they think that other people don't like them. But it's really it's more of a fear that they don't really know themselves. They don't really understand themselves to present themselves to other people. So in my courses, I help people understand who they are and what they really want and how they're going to get it with these connections. And that's just been a key piece that has been missing. I know I want friends. I know I want relationships. I know I want intimate connections, but I don't know enough about me to get them. So help them with that self-discovery.
And once again, today we've been talking about defeat shame, build self-esteem, and set up boundaries. Now, set up boundaries. We didn't touch on that much, but let's quickly kind of touch on that so we have the fullness of the interview. When you set up boundaries, what does that mean?
Well, boundaries are, when people think about them, it's usually to keep something out, but you also use them to keep something in. So boundaries is part of the self-discovery, what you want, what you don't want, and what you can just maybe negotiate having. So I have the framework, the 3N framework, basically your needs, your negotiables, and your nevers. Needs are some actions that you absolutely need people to do in your life. You need that in your life. And if you don't get it, you're not going to be able to connect with them. Your negotiables, they're actions that you see people do that they don't mind. Okay, it's not going to hurt you either way. It's not a big deal. And then your nevers. They're things that they're actions. They're specific actions that you see people do that have an effect on you where you can say, no, thanks. I never want to see this happen again. I'm not interested. I don't want it. And so you're willing to walk away from it. So knowing what those things are up front will help you connect with people better because you can decide whether you want to be around them quickly. You don't have to spend time just not sure. I'll give them another chance. I'll give them a 10th chance and nothing changes and you're confused as to why. So I help people understand what specific actions you need, you can negotiate, or you never want to see. So that can help you set up the boundaries of these are things that I want. These are things that I'm going to do for myself. And I also want to see in other people.
Once again, talking to Coach Lee right here on I'm Refocused Radio. Go to his website, patternsofpossibility.com. And you got a podcast, man. Plug what you talk about and the name of the podcast.
Oh, yeah. My podcast is called Patterns of Possibility. And that's where I would tell my stories with some music and just the kind of a theatrical style, I guess, of the stories and things that I've learned from my experiences with people. I can tell you one about setting boundaries, especially just I used to not say no because I wanted to be accepted. And in my romantic relationships, that was always a disaster. It just explode because at one point, I just feel like they should know how I felt. You should know how I feel. You should know what I want because I'm psychic and you should just be able to pick that up, or you're psychic. You should be able to pick that up for me. And then I would give and give and give and give until I felt like, explode. Like I already given enough. Stop asking me for things. And then I'd feel bad. And then I start giving and giving again. And so our relationship would kind of work that way through. So I tell stories like that. And I mean, I'm very comfortable with my experiences. They are mine. And I feel like I'm so glad to share that and relate to other people with it. So I'm not shy about those experiences.
Well, once again, been talking to Coach Lee right here on I Am Refocused Radio. Man, before we let you go, we've been kind of telling what the website is, but what's the best way of someone wanting to contact you in need of coaching or just someone who just wants to reach out?
Oh, yeah. So the website is really the best place. I'm on all social media. You can find me at Patterns of Possibility on all relevant social media, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. There's so many, but you can reach me best at patternsofpossibility.com. And there you can find free tips. So I have 10 free tips to make meaningful conversation. And of course, I have the free course. You can find Understanding Connections. We talk a little bit about self-discovery and learning how to connect with other people.
Once again, I've been talking to Coach Lee Hopkins right here on I'm Refocused Radio. Make sure you go to his website, patternsofpossibility.com. There you can find free courses, more information, and his other places where he is at on social media. I want to say thank you for taking time in your busy schedule talking to I Am Refocused Radio.
Thank you so much for having me, Shemaya. It was great. It was great.